This is the most important step right here, so take your time, make sure you're doing it correctly. I would say this part and torquing down the head bolts is the most important part. Bundys Garage, Bundy here. Today we're working on a F22 engine. This is on Honda Accord. Going to be installing the head gasket and the head on this particular vehicle. Reason we're doing this is the timing belt broke. Right here I just have a razor blade. I'm going around just cleaning the remaining gasket material off the head. Stay to the end because I actually put in some tips and tricks on how to use the razor blade. Just going around cleaning everything, make sure everything is clean before you install the head gasket and the head. You want that mating surface as well and prepped as you can. So after I clean all that stuff up, you'll get a can of brake cleaner and just spray it around the area. Get a clean towel or rag and clean it up. Get any grease or oil that's left over. Just finishing it up so that's nice and clean and ready to go. So right there I have the Felpro head gasket. Let's see, Felpro head gasket is, for those of you who can't read, I can barely read that. I'll put a link in the description below. I think it's 5851 PT, but I will confirm that here and put a link in the description below. But that's the head gasket I use. That is the head gasket that I use, a Felpro. Has a blue coating on it. It's supposed to help seal a little bit better. It's a multi-layer steel head gasket, MLS head gasket. There is an up and a down to this particular head gasket. Right there you can see, pointing it out, up. So don't put it on wrong or you will run into cooling issues. If you install it upside down, it blocks some of the cooling passages and you'll run into cooling issues with your vehicle. Bringing in the resurfaced head. Had this head sent out and checked at my local machine shop in Riverside, California. I'll put a link to that guy down there as well. Really good guy. Him and his dad. But this is just a matter of getting the head situated correctly. There are two metal dowel pins that sit on either side, like on the left-hand side of the block, right-hand side of the block, and you'll see when you get in there. But it's just a matter of getting them situated correctly, getting the head situated correctly. The intake that I'm pushing back there with my right hand, as you can see right there, kind of got in the way. So you need to kind of jiggle that, move that around a little bit, situate it so it's not hitting the head when you're trying to install it. It needs to sit down correctly. If it's not sitting down correctly and you know what, I'll just put in some bolts and force it down. Don't do that. Don't force the head down. It's not going to work. You'll just run into more issues, more problems. You have to have the head sitting correctly before you install the head bolts. Alright. The head bolts are not torque to yield, so I'm reusing them again. The only time I would reuse or I would buy new head bolts on a non-torque to yield head bolt is if the engine overheated. This engine did not overheat. The timing belt just broke, so the head bolts are fine. If you want that piece's sense of security, go ahead and buy some new head bolts. But I just opted to use the same ones. I'll probably get some hate comments down there. Oh, how can you use the same head bolts? You should buy some new ones. Like I said, if the engine didn't overheat, I'll just use the same head bolts. So there I picked it up again. I just can't get it to seat correctly. I know it's the intake. It's hitting on the intake. I'm inspecting the bottom of the head, taking out the dowel pin right there, make sure that goes in clean on both sides. Just trying to figure out why it's not, why it's not seating 100% correctly. This is the most important step right here, so take your time, make sure you're doing it correctly. I would say this part and torquing down the head bolts is the most important part. And I'll put the instructions down below of how you torque the head bolts. Work it in there, work it nice and slow, get the intake out of the way. So I battled this for, 15 minutes, 10 minutes, and I finally got it to seat correctly. You can see I'm jiggling it there, just ensuring that it's put on correctly. I'm installing two head bolts. I'm not installing all of them. I just put the left one on, the bottom right on. And the reason I do this is that I can have the head there snug down, and then I can go ahead, I can bring in the intake. And if I need to make any, slight adjustments for the intake, I can do it because the head bolt isn't, the heads aren't, or all the head bolts aren't torqued down all the way. And if I have to, I can back out the bolt a little bit to get the intake to seat correctly. Just think of it as a big puzzle that you have to put together. And if you tighten everything down on the head before you get everything attached to it, you might run into a point where the bolt on the back, you can see right there, one of the studs might not go into the intake correctly. So that's why I kind of leave it loose until everything is attached and all the bolts are on the threads. Not necessarily tightened on the threads, but just in place on the threads. So you can see right here, I'm bringing in the intake. I think you have 5 or 6 bolts on the back. 2 of them you have to get from underneath the vehicle. And then there's a brace support underneath the vehicle that goes from the intake to the engine block as well. But yeah, this little engine is great. I love these little F-Series engines. Pretty awesome little engines. Like I said, just take your time, do it slowly, make sure that it's sitting on there correctly. Don't force the head into place by putting bolts in and driving the bolts down, you know, with a 1/2-inch impact or something stupid like that. Take your time, make sure everything's going in nice and beautiful like, and you should be good to go. Also, one more thing that you need to do before you fire up the engine is adjust the valves. Always adjust the valves, whether it's a 4-cylinder or the 6-cylinder V6s, adjust the valves. I always loosen up the springs all the way when it goes to the machine shop. He leaves them loose for me as well, and then once the head's on the engine, I go ahead and do the valve adjustment. Real quick, guys, I just want to show you this. This is a J-Series Honda V6 right here. This is a head gasket. But one thing I wanted to show you and give you a quick tip on is, you saw in the video, in the beginning of the video, I was scraping old gasket material off with a razor blade. Got a razor blade right here. They also sell razor blades that are made of plastic razor blades. I'll put some links, or actually all the stuff I use here in this video or the end of the video, I'll put links in the description below where you guys can purchase it on Amazon. But when you do this, when you're scraping material off the block, you want to come at an angle like this, okay? You don't want to come down here straight 90 degrees. You don't want to dig any kind of, imperfections into the block. You want to come about a 45, 35 degree angle and scrape anything you need off, okay? You don't want to come here and just gouge it. Just go nice and easy. Take your time. Pretty steep angle to get this stuff off. All right, you don't want to come in here and just start gouging like this, Just take your time. Don't force it. If something is really stuck on there, don't force it, because the razor blade can snap back and cut your finger wide open. They also sell nylon abrasive wheels that you can attach to a drill. If you got a lot of material that you want to remove on a head, on a block, you could attach this to a drill and just spin it and clean it up this way as well. I decided not to do it. It wasn't a lot of there wasn't a lot of material on the block left over. These are guide pins that guide the head in, as well as hold on the head gasket. So I've seen these bend from an improper removal. So if these bend, just go to Honda, pick up some new ones. Just want to show you that real quick, guys. Don't come in like this. Come in a nice steep angle. I'm trying to scrape this stuff off, and if it's really bad, you can use a nylon abrasive wheel on the end of a drill and get it off a lot quicker. So, and once you guys are all done getting all the gasket material off, use some brake cleaner and spray it on the head, and get a clean towel or rag and clean all this surface off before you put the new gasket on. Make sure there's no rags down in the holes, and you guys will be good to go.